Hi folks, and welcome to the Gersnet, the independent Rangers podcast made by fans for fans. All your content is absolutely free, coming to you in association with Forrest Precision Engineering. My name's Ali Canderson, and this is Friday, the 18th of August, episode 266 of the Gersnet Podcast. It's going out live on our YouTube channel, but if you're currently watching the far more significant events tonight going on in England and what have you, in the Premier League down there, you can catch up with us on a variety of platforms: Acast, iTunes, Castbox, Stitcher, Spotify, basically anywhere you get your podcast, folk. You're joining us live. You can give your opinions on the YouTube comments section. Please do swear as Frankie moderates that, and we'd like to see him rushing about and try to shut down any bad language before it gets out there. And don't forget, we have a swish new updated Gersnet website, complete with a friendly discussion forum and a wealth of articles from our contributors, including the highly impressive History Archive, which has just been two-paid over from the old version of the site. Hit the thumbs up icon, folks, and let your pals know we're here. Before I bring in my very special, very patient guest this evening, I'd like to mention our very special and very kind sponsors. Forrest Precision Engineering, established in 1983, is a leading precision engineering and special purpose machinery manufacturer. Based in Glasgow, their services in precision engineering are available to companies all over Scotland and throughout the UK. Excuse me, taking a wee breath there. They're leading manufacturers of special purpose machinery for a range of applications. Their website is at forrestprecisionengineering.com. They're big friends of Rangers, and they have a stunning new hospitality area within the Ibrox main stand. For information how to book the Forrest Precision Executive Lounge, a unique and intimate space, email the club via hospitality@rangers.co.uk. And so on to my guest this evening. We're going to look back at events in Servette. Servette is an area of Geneva, so I'm not actually made a faux pas there. It is all right to say events in Servette. And if you look ahead to the Morton game this weekend, I'm joined by the man himself, Bon Viveur, raconteur, man of the hour. He's never doer. And I just wish he'd changed his second name to De Boer so I could get a proper rhyme in there. Mr. Stewart Weir. Stuart, how are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. I am taken by the sponsors. I might turn up someday and ask them to do a shift for them, given the engineering qualifications that I have. Aye.
That's it. I'm so bad I can't even talk about an engineering company without them taking a massive pause there. I completely lost my agenda.
a big congratulations as well to Harry Kane on scoring on his Bayern Munich debut in the Bundesliga. Yes, all of 12 seconds ago.
I saw they had it's so bad on Sky Sports News. It's like Bayern Munich have never had a big player before. It was so bad on Sky Sports News that they had the fellow on from the lead singer of Scorpion, because it was Like a Hurricane has been mauled into Like a Harry Kane. That's the intro music for the man himself.
I did wind up a certain big Jake last week, Alan McInally, by saying that the guy in the BBC had selected, that Harry Kane would be wearing the famous number 9 shirt for Bayern Munich, like Gerd Müller, like Jurgen Klinsmann, like the likes of Robert Lewandowski. And I was waiting for him saying Alan McInally as well, and he didn't. So suddenly there was a pile on Twitter on this poor BBC correspondent who'd been standing outside the Allianz all night waiting for Harry Kane. But anyway, I digress.
Yes, but Rangers, as you know, Stuart, were away to Geneva on Wednesday night, second leg of our Champions League qualifying third round. Geneva, the city of John Calvin, and it was a very kind of Calvinist performance. I thought there was not a lot of kind of ornament or extravagance about it. We got the job done, one each. The minimum we had to do was get a draw, and through we went into the playoff round. I feel there's been a bit of a kind of quite a Calvinist reaction to it as well. A lot of people more kind of relieved, and relieved is fair enough, because it's always a bit stressful watching Rangers in Europe. But more kind of a lot of questions asked about the quality of the performance. I felt it went a bit OTT. Am I being too picky, or how did you view the game the other night?
I said within a couple of minutes of the game finishing, this is cup tie football. Only one thing matters, and that's actually winning the tie. It is so black and white. it's not even monochrome. It's just black and white.
Yeah.
You win the tie, you do what it takes. And if you start basically analysing what happened in the game or being too forensic and what happened in the game, you're actually losing the point. The biggest thing was actually getting a result that would take you into the next round against PSV, and that's exactly what they did. So I can't say that and then pick the bones of this particular match. It was about getting the game done. Rangers didn't start that well. I think they then found themselves suddenly realising that this is a cup tie that we're in. We need to produce a result here. We need to do something to change the kind of tide. Jack Butland made a couple of really crucial saves. Now, I know goalkeepers are supposed to make saves, and you could say he made them at a crucial time. Anytime a goalkeeper makes a save, it's crucial because basically you either keep your team in the game or preserving a lead. So they're always important. But I think Butland showed that he does have a big game or sort of attitude, or maybe he is a big name player. I think you can see why he was kind of sought after, career-wise by different clubs. And I've said it for the last 2 years, Alex, that Rangers desperately needed a goalkeeper with presence. I couldn't see those who were on the books, and that even maybe applied to McGregor, who I thought was a fantastic servant, but latterly you were actually hoping that he would actually do his job rather than produce a miracle, and that is never a good position to be as a goalkeeper. So I thought Butland played really, really well, and I think one or two of the other guys came onto a game as well, and ultimately Rangers managed to grab an equaliser on the night, and what proved to be the winner in the tie through the captain, James Tavernier. And as critical as I have been over Tavernier at certain times, I don't think his value should ever be lost in terms of the goals that he scored over the years for Rangers, and also the important goals that he scored. And that goal that he scored the other night there was worth £5 million. There's not too many more valuable goals in Rangers' recent history than that one. So I think everybody has to be thankful towards Tavernier once again popping up, maybe in an unusual position, but then again, he is the guy who gets forward into these positions when others are still kind of ball watching, hence the reason why he's got such a fantastic goal scoring record.
That's it. I exactly, totally agree with you in what you're saying about Butland as well. I feel as if the goal that Servette scored, albeit we can break down what happened defensively for that, but it was an actual worldie of a shot. It was a class effort. It's almost like I feel as if Alan McGregor would have saved that. But I think he saved one very similar against Red Star Belgrade in Belgrade in the run to Seville. But Alan McGregor would not, I don't think, have made the other two saves. The two saves that Butland made that were crucial in the game. And also he's coming out to the edge of his box. That's the one thing McGregor was losing as he was getting older. He couldn't come out and cover his box. He's settling the whole defence, I think. Correct. I think he's ended up being more valuable to the team.
And he also, I would have to say, and I know these things are almost, it's almost a bit of an illusion. He looks a huge presence in the goal. He looks a really big goalkeeper and looks as if he is commandeering his area, especially the 6-yard box. And the movement, the movement of late of McGregor and the likes, I think he struggled even to come off his line at times because he knew that he might not have been as mobile as he once was, and therefore he couldn't stray too far from his goal line. That is where he would make the saves. Whereas I think Butland's actually a bit of a commanding figure and will actually, make the decision for the defenders. So if he shouts, he's coming, and the defenders have got one job to do, and that's get out of his road because he's got to make it his. It's
almost like a kind of laboratory conditions comparison between the two of them, because you had a penalty in the first leg, which you think Alan McGregor would probably say. Alan McGregor couldn't help saving penalties. He's an amazing short-range shot stopper. But in terms of coming off his line, I think Butland's definitely saved us the other night. Having said that, I felt as if, their goal has been a bit of a worldie. Our keeper is essentially just doing his job when he's keeping them at bay, keeping Servette at bay. And we've missed, albeit we've missed them, we have missed 3 or 4 kind of absolute. It's one particular sitter for Danilo in the half-hour mark, which was hilarious almost if you hadn't been kind of crying at the time. I feel as if there's been the criticism towards the team, a bit of panic about how Beale's team, this kind of embryonic stage, is going to last the season. There was a lot of people unhappy last week that we didn't have Livingston done and dusted by half time. We end up winning 4-0. Do you think that's just a kind of, is that a reaction when we're coming off a season where Celtic have won the treble? We haven't won anything domestically. Is it just a bit of worry, or do you see any genuine causes for concern in this Rangers team at this stage?
I think Rangers fans, probably rightly, are a difficult bunch to please just now. Although you're old enough and you look at, historically, and I know there are very, very few Rangers teams over a great many years now. I'm going back probably 55 years thereabouts. I've got a pretty good memory of what happened. There are not too many teams over those years that have actually taken teams apart week upon week upon week. I think a lot of people look at it through kind of, I was going to say rose-tinted, but certainly light blue-tinted glasses at times and think, oh, that was a fantastic team. They did this, they did that, they did the next thing. Remember, I used to have to write up reports. I remember a 1-1 draw against Dunfermline at Ibrox, which, was almost inexplicable how Rangers could only draw 1-1 against Dunfermline, who were going to be battling relegation. But these things happen. I remember Rangers over a number of years absolutely toiling, and I mean toiling, against the likes of Motherwell, where a 1-0, and even Rangers sides going for the title and going for the championship. I remember Kevin Drinkle scoring late on a winner against Motherwell, when it was like, you look at the league table, and it was like Rangers shouldn't even have be breaking sweat in this one, and it was hard work. And I think some people look at it and think, all you need to do is turn up, you get a goal of a start, and the rest will fall into place. It doesn't always happen that way. I was trying to think during the course of the week about various games. And I think that if it's that easy, it sticks in the memory. I remember Rangers playing at Dens in a midweek game under Advocat, and I think they won 6-0 or 6-1. And honestly, it could be 26-1. And they ended up with a formation that was at one point, looking out onto the pitch, was 2-4-4. That was how attack-minded Rangers were in that game.
Seb Rosenthal and Kanchelskis.
It was like the Harlem Globetrotters that were playing that night, and they just decided, oh, we're off to a really good start here. Now, I've been meaning to look up the kind of stats in that game this week, but again, games like that are few and far between, and I think sometimes you've just got to say, right, what do we need? It's 3 points, a convincing win, 4 goals is pretty convincing, and you've got to give these things time to settle down and time to gel. I know people would like to be 3 or 4-0 up at half time, but it doesn't always happen.
Aye. People wouldn't forgive me if I didn't mention the kind of subject of the hour after that game in Switzerland. Our own Craig Ray from Gersnet, he was at the post-match presser last Saturday after the Livingston game, and he asked the manager about James Tavernier. Then we got the man Tavernier was getting the blame, I think, unfairly from a lot of quarters for the goal we conceded the other night. I think it was definitely a team effort, the goal we conceded in Switzerland, and he stepped up and he scored the equaliser, which I saw a few people putting down as being the least he could do almost to make up for his defensive frailties. it's like a hobby horse, I think, with James Tavernier. The abuse he takes, the criticism he gets. The manager batted away Craig's question at the presser last week, but it's been taken up by other people, because I think it's something that does. It was a question that had to be asked because it is a topic amongst the fans. What's your feelings about Tav? Everybody else seems to be being allowed this kind of, they're getting into a new season. There's been a big kind of fitness regime in the close season to get them up to speed. So everybody takes a few games to get going to full tilt, but Tav doesn't seem to be getting allowed the same kind of patience. What's your views on the captain?
Listen, I have been critical of him in the past. I think defensively, at times, he doesn't just switch off and go missing. He takes it on a new level at times. And rightly he's criticised for that, and that is pointed out. I think he is a player who, in another team, in another time, in another place, would not be a right back. It'd be an attacking right-sided midfield player who scored goals and contributed goals. I think the fact he's a right back, I don't want to give anybody, people a history lesson, but I can remember guys at right back scoring goals and being a presence in their team. If you look at late 60s, early 70s with the likes of the Liverpool team, Chris Lawler scored a lot of goals for Liverpool, but was never ever quoted for England because he wasn't trusted defensively compared to other players that played that role, like Paul Reaney or Keith Newton or the likes. And it's been the same. The fullback roles at Rangers, and I would go back to the start of the Souness era, right? The fullback roles at Rangers, I would have to say, above all else, is the most thankless task or thankless role or position that you can play in a Rangers team. Because you're seen to be an attacking option, and always have been. I know people say, they play with attacking fullbacks. Rangers have always played with attacking fullbacks. Defensively, some have been, let's say, lacking, and some have been better than others. Very, very rarely, and I genuinely mean this, very rarely, if you look at these various positions, have you had somebody who is a real attacking threat and can defend. And if they can defend, it's tended to be because they have the speed to dig themselves out of a hole. If you look at like Newman or Davy Robertson or whoever it is, these guys possess tremendous pace that they could outrun people and get themselves back into a decent position. That isn't going to be that isn't always going to happen with every player. So I think sometimes you have to cut people a bit of slack. I try with Tavernier. Defensively, I still think if you're a full-back, that is one of your main roles is to stop the opposition. But you cannot then say, well, you need to do better defensively and expect him to come in at the back post where you're attacking wide-sided right midfielder or forward should be coming in. The goal he scored is a goal that only Tavernier could score for Rangers because he's the only guy that would make that run and get himself into that position. So you can't have it both ways. It is impossible for you to have it both ways.
And talking to the squad, we had Neil Banfield doing the pre-match presser today. Our manager, it's quite good. We've got an assistant manager named after an Argentinian football club. I quite like that, keeping up with the whole kind of the global philosophy of ex-Sao Paulo coach Michael Beale. But it was said the Euro squad, everybody's getting up in arms about the Euro squad, the squad that's named for the game against PSV, basically. No Rabbi Matondo, Ben Davis, Kamar Roof or Tom Lawrence. Banfield said today, and I'm quoting from the BBC website here, the four of them in the whole have had lengthy injuries, and I think Michael Beale wants a real healthy group and the reliability of the squad. So with such a short turnover, I think people are kind of panicking with the European squads. They're always thinking this is the squad that's going to play every European match if we get to like the final or whatever. Well, it's actually for every round, I think you name another squad. So there'll be a high turnover. We'll name another squad for whatever group stage it is we're going into in a fortnight's time. So was that just about these players? Is it just about they don't have the fitness just now to play against PSV, or like Sarabi Matondo coming on, particularly against Livingston and doing quite well? Should these guys be worried? Is it a sign that they're going to be leaving Rangers in this transfer window?
90% of that squad will not change. Let's be honest. It's not as if Rangers have got a 34-man squad and can name any 23 or 25 out of 34. It just isn't there. So you're going to be limited by numbers anyway. You also want the continuity of what your best team is to be turning out there. It's go back 30 years ago when you had the whole assimilated players and you had the 3 foreigner rule and all the rest of it. And some of the teams that Rangers picked then because of those rules, it was, you look at it in paper now and you think to yourself, did he really play? I mean, some great quiz questions like, who wore the number 7 shirt at Ellen Road? And it was Disco Dale. You know what I mean? It was like, he was in the team. Well, he had to be, he was in the team. Just the way things worked out.
I just remember him bending back Ali McCoy with the celebration for that goal.
Just watch him. Well, he couldn't do that. He couldn't do that with Ruth because he would probably just break in half, right? So, I think you name your best. Yeah, you have to name your best team in Europe. Certainly because it matters so much to Rangers, not just in the success it might bring the club and therefore the support, but also the fact that financially you're in with the big boys if you get through this next tie. And I think game on game, point on point, people, Champions League football. Okay, you get a wedge for being there, but you can also add to that with the amount of points that you take and aiming for knockout stages. So I think you have to put out your biggest and best time and time again.
Absolutely. We've got PSV obviously next Tuesday. That's that win the other night, or the draw the other night, puts us through to play PSV for the second season in a row at this stage. I'm really chuffed. I thought it's quite symbolic that we got Malmo in our first go at the Champions League qualifiers in that third qualifying round. When they were the team that put us out the very same round back in 2011, 2012, our last go at the European Cup Champions League. And they did us home and away, quite embarrassing at Ibrox. They were down to 10 men, still beat us. And then the following season, we've 2-0 down at Union Saint-Gilloise in the first leg, looked absolutely terrible. And we've pulled it out the bag in the second leg and got on and eventually beat PSV in the playoff round. And this year, this is 3 successive goes at this round under 3 different managers. And this year we've won the home leg, albeit not as comprehensively as people wanted, and then we've drawn the away leg. We're going through in better style every time. Can
I just interrupt there? I think people are actually doing a discredit to Servette. I thought they were a really good team. And I think sometimes we have this mentality of, looking at it, and I mean this not just in terms of Rangers fans, I mean in terms of Scots in general. You look at the last opposition you played, if you beat them, then they must be easy. That's not the way it works. They were a well drilled and a well schooled team. You saw that early on in the game the other night there, and I think it was credit to Rangers that they actually found a way to pick them apart eventually.
No, don't get me wrong. I'm thinking at the time when they were beating us, I'm thinking no Swiss team has ever even reached a European final. We've reached 5. This is a disgrace. Yeah. But the minute you kind of settle down, end of the game, I thought they'll get past Genk. They've put Genk out, and the season started a bit earlier than ours. And you say the Swiss league is generally a broader, kind of quality across the board. It's a better quality than most of the Scottish league, I would say. Perhaps not Rangers and Celtic, but it was a really difficult tie, and I'm really glad we got through it. But I think there feels like there's a kind of a thing with the Rangers support this season. When I'm saying this, obviously as a Rangers supporter myself, there's almost a kind of, we've done Europe. The last few years, going through all these group stages, all the qualifiers, then eventually through the group stages. We eventually got through the Champions League, and we got into the Champions League group stage, and the season before that, we were in a European final. Yet we've not won the League Cup. That's it.
I hate to give history lessons. The last couple of seasons with Rangers winning so many matches in Europe, that is not the norm. That is not the norm. Sure. You go back far enough. I can go back far enough and remember Rangers tumbling out of European competition in the first or second tie. I know the European games are different now. You've got all the qualifiers, then everything goes into group stages. But when it was straight knockout, I remember, the 75 Rangers were the champions. And they went out to, St Etienne and went out at an absolute whimper to St Etienne. Okay, that was an exceptional side then. But, again, you look at Levski Sofia, the guy scores a worldie and all of a sudden Rangers are out. It's dead easy to forget that, these other years, it's a generational thing. You and I are old enough to remember these things. I think some of the sort of younger boys think Rangers should just be rolling in and rolling over people. That isn't how it works. And I think the whole thing with European competition, the way it is as well, you can lose matches and come back and win 2 and 3 and keep your European options open. But I think you only have to look at the fact how many goals a certain striker scored over the last couple of seasons to actually understand that, whereas before you might have got one chance in Europe, you now get half a dozen chances. And it's even at that, it's still the length Rangers have gone in European competition in terms of getting out the qualifiers and into the group stages, and especially a couple of years ago, even getting to a final. That is not the norm.
Aye, and I think that's why guys our age are absolutely savouring it. I love the European stuff, and I'm always really keen to do as well as possible while we're on a kind of roll, so to speak. I want to make up for the embarrassment we had in the group stages last season as well. But I think a lot of the fans are viewing it like tomorrow, League Cup against Morton, as a kind of training session in between two big European ties. But at the same time, I think there's a thing going on here where we almost feel like we've done Europe. That's costing us the league the last couple of seasons. Let's kind of park it almost. And we can't, because we're going to a Europa League group stage. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at Rangers having won basically we've won all 4 divisional titles since 2012. We won the Challenge Cup, we won the Scottish Cup. We've won a whole league season unbeaten. In fact, 2 if you want to count the time in the lower leagues. We've got to a European final. We're in the group stages of the Champions League, but we still haven't won the League Cup. And I feel as if this is, while I love Europe and I want to do so well, and I don't think it's straightforward as you can cop out of one to prioritise the other, I feel as if we really just win that League Cup, and psychologically we've done everything again since 2012 that we did before 2012. And I feel as if we'd be properly back, and it'd be kind of a big mental block. Neil Banfield today was saying prioritising it.
The League Cup, just to pick up on the point you've made there before I forget it myself, because I'm at that kind of age, is...
And I'm grown so long.
That used to be a banker for Rangers.
Yes.
Quite literally, that was a banker. Because even poor Rangers teams, and I mean poor Rangers teams, if you look at, under, say, John Gregg, for instance, they still had a semblance of a team there that would come out and win a cup competition. This current Rangers team have shown no signs of that. Okay, you could say, they got to a League Cup final, a couple of years back, and they've got to Scottish Cup finals, semi-finals and the likes. Winning a trophy, that's what made the Cup win over Hearts, and a Scottish Cup win over Hearts, especially a couple of years ago, because it's been so long since Rangers actually had any presence in a cup competition. So therefore, the League Cup doesn't give you European success. It didn't put, whereas before it used to years ago, it got you into the UEFA Cup. It doesn't do anything like that. You might consider it a trinket or a bauble now compared to other things that are going on there, and even financially it might come into that category. It is still something that you can fill with champagne and toast the supporters with, and it makes it important.
It's a lovely trophy as well, in and of itself, a wee modernist classic. And I think it's almost like James Tavernier. What he takes away defensively, he makes up for what he gives us in goals. I feel as if with the League Cup, it's like, you're not winning the League Cup over the past few seasons like we used to do, as you say, kind of the early mid-80s team that was always struggling in the league and in Europe. But we're getting to group stages in Europe and we're performing miracles. It's almost like there's a payoff But for me, I feel as if we should be able to do both. If you're doing well in a Scottish team doing well in Europe should be able to at least be winning cups in Scotland. Morton stand in our way tomorrow in a bid to win the League Cup. Cracking old club, Morton. They wear kind of hoops, so we don't like them, and we wear red and black socks and play off the page of the road, so they don't like us. Kind of the Olympiacos of Scotland out there, Port Glasgow, just the Piraeus, Glasgow. I'm just.
You're painting a picture here that doesn't really exist.
People, the west end of the AA is glorious. It's gorgeous down there. It never rains. The wettest I've ever been at a football match. Standing the wee Dublin end at Capello in the mid-80s. Absolutely brilliant. The first team I saw at the redeveloped Ibrox was Morton. I remember going there as a kid and being gutted to see that it was still terracing in the enclosure. I thought it was the same 4 stands all the way around. But what's your kind of memories? Any personal memories of Morton, Stuart?
Oh yeah, several dozen. I remember a Scottish Cup tie on a frozen pitch. I think it finished, was it 3 each at Capello?
Oh, was it that one? Yep.
When it wasn't so much, Adidas Sambas that the guys had to wear. I mean, ice crampons and big tennis rackets in the feet might have been more suitable. I remember just into the Souness era, Rangers taking Morton apart. I think it was 7-0. I think we Flecky might have scored a hat trick or scored 4 or something like that. So there's games. Equally, I remember Rangers being top of the league around about 79 and losing 1-0 at Ibrox when they literally were steamrolling teams, and that just knocked them for 6 that season. So various memories. I know we Dougie Imrie. I know I can almost hear his brain ticking over at what he's going to do. We keep it tight, frustrate them, try and hit the brake, hang on. As simple as that. And it's for Rangers to get themselves into their game head on as soon as possible, get on the front foot, get the goals that are going to decide the tie, and then play out time. It is that simple against Morton in this game. The longer it goes, I mean, there's people already, if you look at some of the comments on social media and various places, there's people already frustrated that Rangers haven't scored enough goals so far against Morton, and the game's still sort of like, nearly 16 hours away. It's just these kind of things, it's like, again, it's almost like we are there, they are there, A should beat B, but it doesn't always work that way. And I think that, there might need to be a bit of patience about Rangers in this game, but I actually think Rangers need to go off to the best possible start and actually almost like bully Morton out of any tactical game plan that they might have.
That's they can see that's my programme from the replay after that 3-each draw you were talking about. We played them 3 times in a week, Morton. Played them at Capello, drew 3 each in the snow, and then it was the replay was the Wednesday night.
Was it 2-0 in the replay?
It was indeed, sir. Yes, it was indeed. Aye, we beat them in the league the following week. The following Saturday, I was sick of the cycling by then.
I remember I see actually. If you're talking about the League Cup, I remember a group stage in the League Cup when it was Hearts, and Rangers beat Hearts home and away in the sort of group stage and lost in the league. I think it was 3-1 or 3-0 at Tynecastle, around about 82, 83 or 83. Rangers played really well in the League Cup ties and bombed in the league when really you were looking for a performance from Rangers at that time. So these kind of games that come up sometimes you're throwing these kind of things that you play teams like 3 times in a week. It does happen occasionally, but no, I mean, I always used to like going down to Morton simply because there are a couple of fantastic characters there. You would regularly see the late great Arthur Montford in the stand with his sheepskin jacket on, holding court and Alan McGraw, when he was the manager there, was the game would finish at 10-5, and you might still be sitting at like 10-7, just talking to Alan, and all these fantastic stories that he had. But again, give credit where credit's due to Morton. They've been a team or a club that has produced some incredible players over the years. I said in Talk Sport the other night, I was talking about Brighton, and to an extent, Morton were much the same. Their tactic or their ploy was to give boys an opportunity, and if you were good enough, you would get the move. And you played well there, and played well for Morton. It put you in a short window, and I still think to an extent, maybe not the same success rate, but for a lot of these clubs, there's a lot of boys that go out there, and the same thing rings true against Rangers. You do well against Rangers, somebody somewhere might notice, and you might not be playing for Morton much longer.
Aye, that's it. It's funny you should mention that, Arthur Montford. There's a book, Daniel Gray has written a book about Scottish football, and it's just the cover of it I was thinking about today, because it's a picture of a young Morton fan stood outside on the dual carriageway waiting for a bus outside Capello, and he's soaked to his skin. But the book's called Stramash. And it's just hit me. It's just hit me why he's called it that with that picture. Yeah. Absolutely brilliant. Arthur Montford, what a commentator. Like you say, I'll quickly go over what Morton are like just now. They've won 3 of their 4 group games getting to this stage of the League Cup. The only one they lost was away to Ross County. As you say, Dougie Imrie knows what he's doing. When he first arrived at Capello, he got him out of relegation mire, and he was just a point off taking them into the playoffs, the championship last season. We haven't played them since I think 2017, the Scottish Cup, 5th round. We beat them at Ibrox quite narrowly, and the season before that we'd played them in the championship, our second season in the championship, and they were okay at Capello, but they gave us a few problems at Ibrox. Tomorrow, Stuart, is this just about bit of the Neil Banfield saying, almost like he's almost saying today, we're putting out the full squad and we're just going to do everything we can to help the squad gel together, but also to give Morton, just concentrate purely on beating Morton, which is the right thing to say, and I think it's exactly what we should be doing. But is it about getting it done early so we can get as many players rested, or is that a bit of a smokescreen? Are we going to have a few players rested? And I'm going to come back to it again because I know a lot of fans are concerned with it. I've seen PSV Eindhoven's left-hand side. It is absolutely formidable. Are we giving our captain a rest tomorrow?
I wouldn't, because I still think, there, as I've said previously, therefore I'll reiterate it, there's a lot riding on Europe for Rangers this season, especially in terms of the financials. However, this is what struck me the other night there against Servette, and was the newness of this team. There wasn't one or two passes went astray, and you just knew that if that had been somebody who'd played with somebody for another 90 minutes, they would have known where they were making the run.
Aye.
They would know when somebody goes outside or when somebody comes back inside, and where they've got to be accordingly. Hence the reason why I think you see some of the players trying the wee dink passes and the wee touches and the wee flicks, think that somebody will run in there. Well, now they know either the guy that was supposed to make the run who didn't make the run now will make that run, because that's the kind of passes that they're looking for, or they'll hold back and wait for somebody else. I think all of these things come about just through time playing together, and you could train morning, noon and night. You could be on the training ground 18 hours a day, and it does not replicate what you actually face in a match situation. Therefore, I think with the importance of the games coming around for Rangers, it will be a big team that Rangers will put out against Morton, simply because I think you need miles in the legs.
I think that's part of why Danilo and Dessers and that haven't quite, they're not quite scoring the goals we want them to yet, but they're all getting on the board, and we're not just buying 1 or 2 new players to slot into a pre-existing team. You're buying a whole lot of players in there. I've got to start working.
I mean, this is going from the Rangers team of last season. It's going from like a turbocharged V6 to a V10. You know, primarily you've got a power plant that runs the thing, but it's a totally different way of finding out how the new model will handle with this different power plant installed, or how it will perform over a longer period of time. It is. They're not just like minor tweaks. This is a complete rebuild again, and not just, as you say, here and there. If you look at that Rangers team, it's like you start at the goalkeeper and work your way right through that team, and it is entirely new. And I know people say, but he's been there for a couple of seasons. He's been there for a couple of seasons. They might well have been. Doesn't mean to say they've been playing games for Rangers. You know, I think that bit of it sometimes lost, and you say, the defence. There's only really, the goalkeepers maybe changed. But where the goalkeeper looks to make his passes to, in terms of the wide guys or the full-backs, or if the midfield are dropping deeper to take passes, all of these things take time for them to understand where guys are going to be. It might become clockwork, but just now, you've still got to key the back of the clock and winding it up to see what happens.
Exactly. And I think we've got Morton tomorrow. It's live on Viaplay at 12:30. If you're not going to the game, that's if Viaplay, not talking of engines that sometimes break down, if Viaplay are still functioning. Listen, guys, we're going to have to cut it a bit short there. I know a lot of you were keen to talk about the Celtic away allocation at Ibrox fiasco. The boys on Sunday night, it's going to be Brian, Rob, and I think Stewart, are you coming back Sunday night?
I think I invited myself, so I'll probably just stay here. Right,
just hang about there.
Just like this. So I might go for a shower and a shave, but I will still be here.
Get the gins in, get the Viaplay on the laptop, and that'll be you sorted. Aye, but you did have one good line I just want to leave people with when I asked you off air about the whole fiasco with Celtic and the away allocation. I said, it's a bit tit for tat, and you said
it was tit for tit. Actually, one's as bad as the other.
Exactly. It's a fiasco. Just like my presenting skills tonight. Sorry about the.
Don't do yourself down. Don't do yourself down.
I know. I'll blame the technology, but it's only as bad as the man that's working it. Listen, folks, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'll have a bit of post-match reaction tomorrow after the game. Hopefully, it's a bit smoother than what you got tonight from me, and hopefully, it's a bit happier as well. And on Sunday, we'll have Brian in the hot seat. Rob's going to be guesting again, and Stuart. And Stuart, thank you so much for bearing with me tonight, sir.
Enjoyed it.
Thanks for that, troops. See you